Digital 410 Productions proudly presents the What's in Your Head podcast.
Digitized live from the ACT Computer Studios in Cape Coral, Florida, it's the What's in Your Head podcast with your hosts Gordon and Don Abernathy.
What is going on, OG5? We are here for another weekend, and I spent an inordinate amount of time trying to get the audio fixed on the live stream. Joining us always from Las Vegas is Gordon. Gordon, how's it going out in Las Vegas?
Well, if you've seen the news, you pretty much know how it's going.
Yeah. More importantly, we got a guest. We're going to get him out, get started, get going before we run out of time on Zoom because we're cheap fucks around here. Joining us from New Jersey, he is a comedian and podcast host, Kevin-Gootee. Kevin, how are you doing, friend?
Guten Abend, everybody. How are
guten
you?
Abend.
Great. How about yourselves?
Das ist sehr gut, ja?
Oh, wow. Sprechen Sie Deutsch?
Nein. Und scheiße.
Me neither.
Just enough to get in trouble.
You know, it's funny.
Yeah.
Down here in Cape Coral, Florida, we're like the German hotspot. This is where all the Germans go to take their vacations. And so I do have a few German clients. And despite my getting kicked out of German class in high school, I still don't know enough German to speak to anybody. But I do have enough of Windows memorized because I'm an IT guy that despite the fact their computers are all in German, I can still maneuver my way through it. But more importantly, what's going on, friend? Let's get into a little bit of you. I know you got a new podcast, but before we get into that, we have a appreciation for comedians around here, mainly because I want to be one, but I don't have the balls to get up on stage. It's not really a stage fright thing because, well, you know, I worked in radio for 5.5 years. I've been on stage in front of 16,000 people at concerts and all that. It's just the more of working out the material, and I find that when you're in front of a smaller crowd, you can actually hear people say you suck, opposed to when you're in front of 16,000 people. It's just all landscape, so it doesn't matter. So you've been in comedy for 10 years, correct?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Now, I know New York is pretty much closed down. Has Jersey got any clubs open? Do you have any dates coming up soon? How long has it been?
Yeah, I have one in July 31st down in LBI, Long Beach Island. So hopefully that happens. We're supposed to start opening things up. I think people have gone stir crazy, especially when you see things in the news like, hey, when you guys have a gathering, it should only be 12 people, but hey, there could be 100 people at a protest, but only 12 people at a small gathering. I think people are going, okay, enough hypocrisy of this nonsense. We're going to go do what we got to do. And things I think are going to start opening very, very soon. Yeah,
if you want to go sit shoulder to shoulder with somebody, you know, claiming you're angry, and which is fine and great, but you can't go to a barber shop or to the gym that's, you know, it's just you and the barber and the next chair is 18 feet away. It is a little crazy. And now you're starting to see these businesses going after these governors and mayors, suing them for, you know, unconstitutionally forcing them to close down their business. It's insane.
Yeah, that's happening. It's just the economy's getting hit. And I think when the CDC came out and said, was it 6/10 of people die from COVID, you're like, yeah, you know what? I think I'll play the odds. I'm not minimizing COVID and what it's done to some people, and people have died, and I'm definitely not minimizing that at all. I think it's okay. You know what? I think it's time that enough has passed, and I think it's going to be, you know, time that
we just got to learn how to live with it, right?
What's that?
Learning how to live with it, and
exactly.
We got to move forward. Well, Vegas opened up 2 days ago.
I'm very well aware of that. In fact, you'll see me in your lovely city as I come there every year. I'll be there this time in August. Usually I usually come out with my buddies for week one of the NFL, but this year we bumped up a little bit earlier. So I'll be there in the second week of August, weekend of August. I love your city, big fan, and I'll see you then. Yeah,
it was cool. One thing that was a little different is they definitely take your temperature on the way in. So they've got these big scanners that everybody just walks through real quick, moving on. As for the social distancing aspect, well, you know, it's about as what you would expect. I mean, you know, would they want people to do more? Yes. But at the end of the day, we got to live with it. And we went out and lost a few money, a little bit of money within a half hour, and said, okay, we're done gambling. That was our year. You know,
it's crazy. Today's the first time I've been to any chain or anywhere really here in Florida that require you to wear a mask and then provided one with you. Now it's like Guitar Center of all places, a place where rock guys and punk guys and guitar band people, they go to get their equipment. They actually stopped us at the door. They didn't care. I had my dog with me. They were fine with that, but no, they hooked us up with a medical mask before we could peruse their inventory and get me some cables to work on our sound issues we're having over here. But more importantly, Kevin, I listened to your podcast, and first and foremost, we are about the same age. I think you graduated a year before me. And listening to you, your co-host, and your guest is like listening to and hanging out with my guy friends in 1997. The lack of concern about feelings, the slang words, the movie references, the pop culture. I'm driving in my car feeling like we're all just hanging out at my fucking dad's house after school. It's like, it's so great to actually hear conversation between real dudes of people my age. It's you realize how watered down shit has gotten when you actually hear people who aren't concerned about offending people when they talk.
Yeah, we listen, we don't go out and try to, but we don't really put a governor on anybody and what they say or what they do. And we're just, we're comics. It's not much censoring going on here. It's a shame that this is what the world is coming to. Hopefully it kind of boomerangs and flattens out. But yeah, that's something that we like to do with the podcast. We like to really sit back and invite people on to pick films that are really those sacred cows, hence the title, Gutting the Sacred Cow.
I was going to say, I'm such a bad host. I mentioned you had a podcast twice, but I haven't mentioned the name yet. Yes, it is the Gutting the Sacred Cow podcast.
Yes, sir.
And I'm sure you get this question. I don't want to be that guy, but I'm going to be that guy.
Sure.
How did the concept come? I love the whole, because there's so many podcasts out there. They all have the same kind of theme, and some sound like morning shows, some afternoon, a lot of, true crime stuff. Your whole theme, the layout of your show, it's almost like a unofficial game show, if you will. Just the whole process. And I guess we should probably explain to people what your term sacred cow means and what the whole, the aspect of your podcast is.
Sure. So let's break down your first question. How did I come up with that? So I've created a few shows. One is on Amazon Video right now called Comics Watching Comics. I've got 8 seasons on that. Think of Mystery Science Theater 3000 meets Last Comic Standing.
Sure.
So what I like to do is I like to take established themes, but have one hell of a twist on them. So it's nothing too far off the beaten path, but again, very unique in that path that it is on. Another show I do is called Fantasy Football Jibber Jabber. We take fantasy football and advice and NFL handicapping advice. I bet the hell out of the NFL and combine it, but with humor, because I'm sure I see a Penguins hat, I see a Penguins mouse pad. So you're a sports guy, that's for sure.
Yeah.
There's nothing. ESPN's all good and well, but those hosts are the most viciously unfunny people there are on the planet, right?
Well, to be fair to them, they got ESPN's corporate office breathing down their back, and so because I worked in radio for 5.5 years, and Across the Hall was an ESPN affiliate. And so, right. They're very limited on the kind of level of joking they can do. I think the most risque show that was on cable for the time was the Best Damn Sports Show Ever. And they're risky because they had a cuss word in the title of their show for the first time.
Sure. Yeah. And that's it. Like, forget even the risqueness. Those shows are never funny.
Yeah.
Forget the name. They're never funny. It's all information, which is fine. But I like to get my information with a side of jokes, and that's what my buddy Gerard Harron and I do. We co-host it. We give you NFL betting advice and fantasy football. You never see the two married. So that brings us to Gutting the Sacred Cow, and you hit the nail right on the head. Every movie podcast, virtually every movie podcast, are 2 to 4 dudes sitting around a mic, cracking open some craft beers and saying, yeah, man, Empire's better. Can we curse on this or no?
No, absolutely.
Yeah, okay. So, no, fuck you. Star Wars is better. No, Empire is better. You jerk off. And that's what they are. Everyone loves talking about films. People like myself, and maybe you guys too, we get a little bit more passionate than most, and we love to talk about films and deeper and really kind of duke it out. But that's been done to death.
Mm-hmm.
So what I decided to do was say, hey, you know what? Let's have the balls to go after these films. And there's nothing that makes me happier than pulling the pants of someone down metaphorically and proving their film that they love is just shit. Like, I get mad when people defend dumb shit. Don't get me wrong. If you say, let's use an example, Big Trouble in Little China. I love that film. I know it's not a great film, but you can argue why it's not a good film. But if you say it's one of my favorites, I'm not going to shit on you because that's your favorite. And I get that.
Well, and you also understand that without Big Trouble in Little China, we don't have Mortal Kombat. I mean, they straight up took the character away from that movie.
They stole Raiden right from that one. And they stole Street Fighter, came from Bloodsport. How about
Absolutely.
That? Right. So, but I hate when people say, oh, this is a great film because the masses say so, like Titanic. Shut the fuck up. Titanic stunk. 2001: A Space Odyssey. That is awful. I dare you to sit through that. By the way, the first 3 minutes of 2001, fucking blank screen. The only people who like 2001 are the nerds who want to be taken seriously in a film discussion.
Yep.
Or you were high as fuck on tripping acid or some shit like that. No one in their right mind, just sitting there sober, likes 2001: A Space Odyssey. That film stinks. It's not good. So I created a forum where it's like, hey, everyone's got films that they disagree, these sacred cows. And for you to get on the podcast, it's usually comedians or podcasters. And the film you choose, it can't be like Friday the 13th Part 6. It's any asshole.
No, it's got to be something that people hold as a delicate little flower. They hold it up in the movie guides like, hey, this thing is such a superior, not a movie, mind you. This is a fucking film. And those are the ones you guys go after.
Not only that, it has to meet one of these three criteria. It has to. And I'm the judge of that, so I'll tell you if your film's good or not. The first one, it has to be a financial success, or it has to be widely beloved, or it has to be critically acclaimed. Got to be one of those three. And I just go out there and tell people, one guy who's like, let me do Batman versus Superman. That made a shitload of money. I go, no, that movie sucks. No one likes it. That's too easy.
Yeah.
I want people to pick a film where the audience is going to look at their phone and they see a new episode's come. They go, this asshole is going to shit on the Goonies. I fucking love the Goonies. Eat my dick. And then they hate listen. And then I choose the Goonies as an example because I got way more emails saying, you know what? When your guest came on, David, the producer, did a great job. Does a fantastic show called Unwritable Rant. Give it a listen. Him and his wife are fantastic. He chose the Goonies, and I remember. So it sounds like we're close to the same age.
Yeah, he didn't go after Chester Copperpot, did he? He left Chester alone, right?
Yeah, no, he went. He got after Chester Copperpot and those little ragtag bag of shit sippers. And he made a great point because when I saw the Goonies as a kid, I'm like, I like it. It's good. As an adult, I watch it. I'm like, all right, I own it. But watch it again now. It does not hold up. It is not good. There are tons of flaws. And I had more people emailing me saying, you know what? When I saw that you guys chose it, I said, oh, fuck these assholes. But when I listened to your episode, you made all the sense in the world, and it changed my mind. And that's all we're looking to do. Sometimes change your mind, but at least I want you to think deep. Now, do a lot of people gut the sacred cow? Less than 50% do. Sometimes it's an absolute runaway. Oh, we hate this movie. Go right ahead. This is a slam dunk. Or people choose films like my buddy Bill Schultz, whose new episode actually drops on Monday. He came back. His first film he chose, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which I fucking love, But he managed to expose some flaws in that film. Did he change our minds? No, he did not change us and say that we thought that film sucks. But we conceded he made great points. He's on next week to take down Independence Day, which I think sucks, but my co-host loves. So we'll see how that goes.
Not to spoil your premiere on Monday, but that episode's already out. I was listening to it today. It's a great episode.
You son of a bitch. I know it's out, but that's when all the mass promotion hits. So that's fine. I don't care.
That's all right. This podcast will go live Monday anyhow. So if you're downloading this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and all those good places, go ahead and subscribe to Gutting the Sacred Cow the same day. Because, we record this on Saturday live, and then I post it up, and most people start downloading on Monday. So, today when you're downloading this, go check out that episode. It is a great episode.
Yeah, it's a fun one. I really think, and if you think that one's a fun one, check out last week's episode. Dave Landau does Philadelphia.
Yeah, that was the first one I listened to.
That one when I saw that, I go, Landau's going to make a few buttholes clench up, and he did a masterful job. So if you're a film fan, if you like film debate, spirited film debate with people who know what the fuck they're talking about, who make things funny, that's us. We're not four dudes sitting around jerking each other off while drinking craft beers or whatever. We go after it hard. We do our homework, and that is the damn truth.
Well, and the nice thing is too, it's more organized than what we have going on here. Basically, you have almost like court session. You have the defendant and then the guy who's stating his case, and so you have the first person come on to tear it apart, and then you'll have your guy come on who likes it or has somewhat of more of appreciation, kind of dispute the facts and go back and forth. And it's a great format. And I don't know if this would meet your criteria, but the one that popped up in my mind, because I just saw it for the first time recently, because the way everything's going on with politics, more and more every day politics is getting to be like Idiocracy, and every day and everybody holds this thing up as like this comedy gold mine. And I watched it last week, and I'm like, not so much. Wasn't that impressed with it. I mean, looking at what's going on now with how dumb our politicians are, that similarity, but as a comedy piece separated from comparing it to what the hell we're going through now, wasn't that impressed with it.
What film? You didn't tell me the title.
Idiocracy.
Oh, Idiocracy. I didn't hear you say that. I'm sorry. No, I don't think that would qualify because it was not a box office success. I mean,
it's just a cult film.
Yeah, and I heard of it. I don't remember. I haven't seen it.
you're not missing out.
I don't know. I mean, I've heard people talk about it. It's not like exactly. It's not a cult film. Like when I hear cult film, I think Big Trouble in Little China or Big Lebowski or Clerks, something like that, or something a little off the beaten path but not too far off. I don't think that would qualify. No.
I wonder. I have.
Go ahead.
Sure.
And you may have done this as Braveheart.
Not done yet. People
not even stay awake during it. It's I've wanted to like it, but to me it moves so slow. Or it's the times I've tried to watch it halfway through, I'm out. Done.
That would definitely qualify. I mean, that won Best Picture. They made a shitload of money, and it's pretty well beloved. That hits all three of those. That would be. In fact, John Fugelsang, who did Gone with the Wind, he was debating between Braveheart and Gone with the Wind, but decided to do Gone with the Wind and made me sit through that 3.5 hour snooze alert.
Well, it's funny you say that because one of my other podcasts I host, because I'm a living historian and a World War II reenactor, I host a podcast called the What's the Scuttlebutt podcast, and we talk about World War II stuff. And I think the movie that might qualify, which people who aren't into living history and history itself, but like military movies, they love The Longest Day, which we refer to as the longest movie. But as somebody who studies the history and the uniforms and all that, that movie is atrocious. Key fact, if you watch that movie and knew nothing about World War II, you just assumed everybody on the Allied Army side carried Thompson submachine guns, because the only person in that entire movie who carried an M1 Garand was John Wayne, because he used it as a crutch. Everything from the uniforms to the guns, that movie was just horrible. And I saw it for the first time like 2 years ago. Not only is it super long, but it's just historically inaccurate. It's horrible.
Never even heard of it.
Consultants, Yeah,
I say that. What was the title again?
The Longest Day.
Yeah, I take that. I did hear of it. I've never seen it. I haven't seen that.
You're not missing out on anything.
I'd have to do research and see what the numbers were, if it won anything and how well it did in the box office. But my initial gut reaction, I would say no. But again, I'd want to do a little research and see if it may qualify. Again, we want people to look at their phone and go, man, fuck that, something like that. I don't think many people except yourself, because obviously that hits close home to you. That would get their dick hard. Saving Private Ryan, that would get people pissed off.
Yeah, that would get people pissed off.
That would anger people.
Hamburger Hill.
Sure, if someone were to go after those two, but I don't know about that one. I don't think it would be a Hellraiser.
And there's your choice Quentin Tarantino movies you could go after too.
Well, if you would go after a Tarantino film, you'd probably lose, because I'm quite a Tarantino fan.
And I am too. Just finding something,
My producer for Comics Watching Comics, a very good friend and comic, Lynette Palladino, decided to try and go against me with Pulp Fiction, and she brought a knife to a nuclear warhead.
Wow. How could you even start on that one?
Yeah, you can't.
She said, here's her argument. First of all, it dragged, which it did not. And I thought this was silly, and I love you, Net, if you're listening, but she said the characters are nothing special. I'm like, the characters are fucking memorable. And the film is insanely quotable, and the repartee between them is gotta be top 10. That's insanity. And then Winston Wolfe with Keitel and Ving Rhames and Bruce Willis. That film, that's my second favorite film. Caddyshack being one, personally. Caddyshack won, Pulp Fiction 2. And not by much. But I think that film is just an absolute perfect recipe from start to finish. It ties together with a big bow tie, and it's fun and memorable and hilarious and quotable. And I'm coining this, goddammit. I need to find a patent office to make sure it's going through. It passes the remote test. What's the remote test? The remote test is if you're watching it on cable and it happens to be on, you drop your remote and go, I know what I'm doing for the remainder of this film.
And to say that one didn't have good characters, Pulp Fiction, without the whole movie is the characters, with the exception of the last 15 minutes where they're cleaning up the car and disposing of it. The whole movie is nothing but character development and character background, because they're really not doing anything but talking.
The last scene is where they're in the diner and they're getting robbed by Honey Bunny and Tim Roth.
Yes.
That's when they start off, and that's when they circle back to. So, but I love when they clean out the car with Tarantino and his horrible acting. That was some great dialogue that entire time. You kidding me? This is some serious gourmet shit.
Yep.
It's brilliant, top to bottom. Love it. I mean, Tarantino film, maybe you would argue hateful eight. I liked it.
I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it too. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I dug it. Once people didn't realize it wasn't about the Manson family, it's good. It's about DiCaprio and Brad Pitt. And Brad Pitt, I walked out of that theater and I fucking put money on it. I said, he's winning supporting actor. The minute they made those odds available, I jumped right on that. I said, there's no way he's losing this. There's no way. And he won. I thought that was an easy pick.
clearly you have a podcast about movies, and I mean, when somebody brings up a movie, you know, even if it's not the one that's the subject of that particular episode, but if someone brings up a movie in the conversation, you know, the director, what year it came out and all that, clearly movie is a great passion of yours. When did that develop? What movie really kicked it off? Where did the bug bite you? How old were you? Do you remember?
Great question. Easy answer. I moved to Jersey. My parents moved to Jersey with me. I was almost 4. Actually, I was 4 at this time. And this is 1980. So my dad said, come on, get in the car. And I remember this like it was yesterday. We're getting in the car and we're driving in Princeton, where I'm from. And we're going to what I thought was my doctor's office, because we went to the doctor a few times. And we're going to the doctor's today? My dad's like, no, not today. And he took me to go see Empire had just been released, but they brought Star Wars back when Empire was released initially. And I sat in Star Wars, and the two scenes I remember, the biggest scene I remember and being captivated is when they're in the trash compactor room and that eyeball pops out from under there, and I was hooked. And we saw like every Disney film, and I love seeing Disney films as a kid. Every time they re-released Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and Sleeping Beauty and Pinocchio and Dumbo, we saw all those in the theater. But Star Wars was the first film I remember seeing. My parents said the first film they took me to was a drive-in theater to go see Meatballs. That film stunk, but I was 2 when I saw it. I don't count it, but I hate it now. But yeah, Star Wars, seeing that 1980 when they released Empire was the first thing I remember, and I was hooked. And I even had the stupidest ability to recall movies from, like, I don't know, early 80s to late 90s, where they opened in what theater in my hometown. I could tell you, like, Naked Gun, Mercer Mall, saw it there. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Mercer Mall. Pulp Fiction opened at Market Fair and then went over to Quaker Ridge Mall when they brought it back for Academy Awards. That is the most useless fucking information I have stored. That will never serve me financially in life, but I cannot understand why I retain that knowledge.
You know, it's funny you're talking about the trash compactor scene in Star Wars. I remember as a kid, I would stay at my cousin's house during the summertime, and he had somewhat of a walk-in closet, but we're all like 9, which means it was full of shit. And we reenacted that scene so many times.
Every toy known to man, too.
Yes, in his closet, we'd just be under the toys and all that, and reenacting the whole thing with the door closed. Because his fucking closet was a trash heap. Sadly, we blew all our Star Wars toys up with fireworks, as most of us did when we got to our teenage years. I know.
Looks like they're on one of the Death Stars. Then.
Yeah, exactly. One of your episodes, I think your guest was talking about one of the first movies he saw multiple times in a movie theater. And it made me flash back. The first movie I think I saw multiple times in the movie theater when I was in high school had to be Natural Born Killers. I think I saw it 3 times at the local Star Cinema in Grove City, Ohio.
Really? I was not crazy about that. I thought that was very overhyped.
What's kind of interesting is I watch a movie once and I think I love movies, but then I'm just kind of done with it. It's so weird. Yeah. It's like, okay, I've seen this. Let's move on. And who knows? Maybe it's just I get bored easy. You're not of the school of thought that the more times you see stuff, the more you pick up on, I don't want to say Easter eggs because that term's fucked out, but on a well-written script, right? There are so many things going on that sometimes it takes a second or third viewing to pick up on all the little nuances. I am, and I understand that, and I've picked up on it before, but just typically for some reason, I'm just like, it feels like a job the second time around. You know. It's weird that way, but it's just. I love watching stuff. If I love it, I'll see it multiple times. I can't tell you how many times I've seen Caddyshack. I saw Pulp Fiction in the theater. Jesus Christ, I think 3 times, maybe even 4. That's how amazing it was. The Matrix I saw twice. I mean, a lot of these things I've seen. I like it not as much anymore. I'll see it twice. I think the last thing I'll tell you. Actually, I do know the last 2 films I've seen twice in the theater. Both Avengers films in the last 2 years, I saw twice in the theater. Because they're that goddamn good. 1 and 2. It's just you cannot discount seeing those kind of films on a big screen. So those are the last things I've seen twice in the theater, were Avengers films. Does The Matrix hold up? I haven't seen it in a while, and I know 100% without a doubt. That's my top 5 of all time. Even with the CGI being dated. I don't give a shit. In fact, I don't think it looks dated. As a matter of fact, really? I really don't think it's that dated. Interesting. I'll have to go back and check it out. Now I'm playing music in the background because, like, you keep making references to Caddyshack. In like 1999, I sat there on my computer. Actually, it was during 9/11 when I got laid off from the ambulance plant. And I sat there. Oh, here it is. I pulled clips off HBO of Caddyshack and put it into a song that I made. I was sitting there trying to find it for you.
Now, obviously, you're on every major podcast platform, right? You're on the new Google Podcast, which is the same as Google Play, which, by the way, Google, if you're listening, you got to get that shit fixed. You can't rewind it. You can't fast forward it. And every time you restart it, it starts from the beginning of any episode you're listening to. But what's your main carrier? Where do you want everybody to go?
I want you to go to guttingthesacredcow.com, goddammit, because we have links to every one of the podcast platforms we are on. We're on iTunes. We're on Spotify. We're on Spreaker. We're on Stitcher. We're on iHeartRadio. We're also on YouTube now, so you can watch us, and you can watch our smiling faces. I'm actually uploading the next episode to YouTube as we speak, so you can watch us. So if you're at home right now, which a lot of people are because of what's going on, and in fact, podcast listenership has gone down because of that. People are watching stuff at home, and that's they put on in the background while they're working. So now we're on YouTube as well. So we're on every single platform you can think of. And while you're on Gutting the Sacred Cow, we want you to go check out 2 other places. We've got a blog where we post our hashtag lists of 10, different theme every day, 10 best soundtracks of all movie soundtracks, 10 best comic book villains in movies, 10 best superhero heroes and come from comic books and movies, stuff like that. Also, we have a merch store open now. You can get shirts, hats, mugs. No COVID-19 masks, though. None of those N95 things. Sorry. But you can go over there, buy a shirt, with our smiling faces on it and check it out as well. So I want you to go to guttingthesacredcow.com. That's where you're going to find everything to see where we are, including social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Give us a follow if you appreciate that.
Well, before we go ahead, Gordon.
How amped up are you to get back on stage, and has this time off actually given you a chance to make new material? And I'm sure you're trying to avoid COVID-19 crap for when you're back.
Great questions. Am I amped up?
Yeah.
Kind of, sort of. It's this podcast has really been it's caught fire over the last week or two, mainly because I was on Anthony Cumia's show last Tuesday. And that's been really spiking. And this has really been taking a lot of my time, which is good.
Yeah.
I'm also trying to pitch other shows. So comedy's taken a little bit of a back seat for me because I think people in comedy, it's like you're trying to make it, right? Everyone's version of it is very different. Some people say, as long as I can pay my bills, I'm making it, which is great. Some people say when I make I'm a mega millionaire, that's great. I don't know. I'm trying to get to the middle and then I'll figure it out from there.
Yeah, right.
So I think for me, stand-up is not where I'm going to make it. I'm pretty good. I've got done well, but to be out there as a stand-up comedian full-time it's insane. I still have a day job, so that's where I'm making a great amount of money. So I can't be out 5, 6, 7 nights a week like I used to. Now that I have a wife and kid, especially the kid, more importantly. So I'm really focusing my energy. I can get way more shit done for these shows, for the podcast when I'm at home, and I get to hang out with my 4-year-old, which I think is great. I still do gigs, just not near as much. Material-wise, I don't have much new material out of this because I don't want to be that guy as well as every other asshole is going to go out there and talk about quarantine for fucking 15 minutes on stage. And by the time that you got into the second or third comic as an audience member, you're like, ugh, enough already.
Exactly. And that's my fault too.
Yeah, it's not, there's nothing that's striking me. I have a few things jotted down. So am I looking forward to it? Yeah, somewhat. Am I chomping? Am I champing? Actually, that's the way to say it. It's not chomping. It's champing at the bit to get out there. Yeah, kind of, sort of, but not like some of these other guys. This is where this is their full-time gig and they're dying because they haven't made any money because that's their sole source of income. So kind of, sort of answer your question, and no, not really. No new material. Yeah, nothing really. I want to get out there and promote or put on Instagram or YouTube or whatever.
I think a lot of people who never done a podcast or spent any time talking to a microphone for any extended period of time, to me, regardless of what the content is about, whether it's me doing this general entertainment podcast, my World War II podcast, what have you, I find it very therapeutic. There's just something about, verbal vomiting into a microphone, regardless of what the subject matter is, for 30 to 40 minutes, sometimes an hour and a half. It's so therapeutic that, I don't know, I'm waiting all week just to do the next episode just so I can get all this energy out.
I agree. And especially with us, with the movie podcast, there's so many movies out there. We're not going to have anywhere near, it's going to take forever to really to cover just the basic ones, And if someone big enough wants to come by, I don't know, let's throw a name out there. Let's say Chris Rock wants to come to my podcast and say, you know what, you guys did Pulp Fiction or Star Wars. I'm going to do that shit. Absolutely, Mr. Rock, right this way. So, but yeah, we have so many movies to do. We're booked. The podcast is booked until September with guests. So
fantastic.
It's not a hard time to try and find people material to come on and do. That's for sure.
Now, would you guys consider doing maybe more current streaming services show from Netflix, say like an Ozark?
No, we don't do TV shows.
Just movies.
At all. Okay.
Yep.
That's fair. I just was wondering.
Well, the other thing is
because then I'd have to dedicate way more than 2 hours, or even 3. I'd have to sit through and blow through 4, 5, 6, 7 seasons of a show to have a fair, grasp of the material. Nope, not happening. Don't have the time for that.
Yeah, I think that's something we left out when describing your show. One of the things they do, Gordon, is the person who's coming on who's going to talk about the movie, they all sit down and watch the movie, so it's fresh in their mind. And so to sit there and watch 12 episodes of Band of Brothers or, whatever, it would take a week just to do a 1-hour show.
Okay.
His name is Kevin-Gootee. He's from the Gutting the Sacred Cow podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, friend, and it's good talking to you.
It's been great talking to you, fellas. Thanks so much again. Check it out. We really appreciate. I really appreciate you having Kevin and Israel. Both would appreciate you letting us come on and spread the good word.
And we know everybody listens to podcasts primarily in their car, sometime in the bathroom. And so if you're listening to this podcast and you have a bad short-term memory like I do, head over to d-410.com and or what'sinyourhead.com. And as always, whenever we post an episode of a podcast, we have all the pertinent links to all the pertinent places for the guest. So if you can't remember these links that he was saying, go to our website and go to the page for this episode, and you'll find all Kevin's links and URLs, and it'll send you directly to him. And thank you so much, Kevin, and we'll talk to you soon, man.
Appreciate it, fellas. Thanks for the time. Good talking to you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And once again, because we are broke as a joke, we have like 7 minutes left. So what we're going to do is, Gordon, before we go to our first break, before we get our first break, let me just get these out of the way. This episode of the What's in Your Head podcast, notice the new logo over there. Pretty cool, huh? Those stickers are available here real shortly once I get around to putting a link on the website. But anyhow, this episode of the What's in Your Head podcast is brought to you by our friends at Act Computers. Act Computers has been providing IT solutions for all of Southwest Florida since 2004. Give them a call and they can help you out with all your computer needs, whether it's a broken laptop, broken tablet, busted computer, whether you need your business secured with two-form authentication, or more importantly, online backups. Right now, with all your employees working from home, hackers are going to town, and so make sure all of your data is backed up securely at 7 cents a gig per month. Give them a call at 239-283-1120. That is Act Computers, 239-283-1120. And while you're on the internet, head over to d-410.com. Click that big, beautiful orange Patreon logo, sign up for the $1 a month plan. There's 2 other plans, but hey, we're all broke. I'm not going to get into those. But sign up, help support the show. Those What's in Your Head podcast stickers, the OG5 stickers. Anytime we have stickers or merch that doesn't cost a whole hell of a lot of money to make, we just give them to the Patreon, the OG5 members. So if you want free stickers, head over there and sign up. If you sign up for that 3rd tier plan, which is $7.50 a month, I will send you a free t-shirt as well. There are some exclusive content. We are getting ready to post a new exclusive The OG5 podcast up there here shortly. But thank you guys so much. Stick around. We're going to be back in a few minutes we're going to check with our friend Martin Mazika up in New Jersey. And then obviously we're going to get to our list of shit and news with Gordon, plus much, much more. So hang tight and we will be back momentarily.
On the latest episode of the What's the Scuttlebutt podcast.
And it's interesting because when you talk to people who have seen the movie and think they know about, the history of the Bell, because it's tough, man. I mean, there's been so many books written about the Bell. There's so many misnomers. So it's tough, unless you were there, you don't know. Colonel Morgan wrote a book about being the man who flew the Memphis Bell, and you're just going to have to take that as fact. Whether anything's embellished or not, who knows? It's his book. That's how it is. But 8 of the 10 crewmen were still alive when they made the Warner Brothers film in 1990. And there were some reasons for the inaccuracies of that film. People love to pick it apart. Probably the one that stands out the most to folks is the Bell made her last flight in May of 1943. Before P-51D Mustangs were escorting for the 8th Air Force, okay? What shows up in that movie? bright, shiny silver P-51 Mustangs, the little friends. You know, when the Bell was in flight, it would have either been early model Thunderbolts or more likely Spitfires from the RAF. And how confusing would Spitfires be for people watching those escort the Bell? So it was things like that, the artistic licensing that, you know, they didn't use their real names. They didn't want to use their real names because it wasn't about the men. It was not about the individuals. It was about a team of 10 men, a family, a bomber crew. That's what it was supposed to be about.
The What's the Scuttlebutt podcast can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and anywhere where podcasts can be found.
And we are back. Thank you, guys. Thank you once again to Kevin-Gootee from the Gutting the Sacred Cow podcast for joining us for the first half. We're going to get to our list of shit and all of our normal stuff here regularly. But right now, we are bringing back on a friend of the show, a friend of mine I went to high school with, Martin Mazika. Now, Martin joined us last time via the phones. He lives up in New York. And as anybody knows,
it in New York?
Well, that's what we're getting down to. Anybody who's watching the TV knows that that's one of the places that has been burnt down. And well, let's get straight to it, Martin.
You all
how
got
are
the burnings
things?
and we got the shootings, evidently.
Yeah, how are things going in New York? What are things like?
Well, when I talked to you last, right after I talked to you, we packed up everything and anything and took the kids up to my in-laws. And then, you know, once in a while, we'll go back and check on some of the house and you know, the plants and the fish. But it's been crazy. They split the state into sections, and they're doing like phases. You have to meet certain criteria to be able to reopen, and then the reopening is done in phases 1, 2, 3, and 4. So just within the last, I'd say, week, the capital region up here in Albany, they started to open, which is interesting to go out and see places open. We went to an ice cream shop the other day, but when you go back to the city, I mean, it's just disgusting. They haven't focused on any of the street cleaning.
Really?
It's just a mess. You got the lines are ridiculous to get into a store. And then up here, it's practically a whole different world. You know, you just go right in, come out. You still have to wear the mask. I got to witness a couple coming in from Massachusetts, because we're kind of near the border of Massachusetts, and they came into Target, and the state has a mask law. And I heard over the walkie-talkies, but I could see the door and the couple standing there, and a kid was like talking to the manager, stating, what do I do? This couple wants to come in from Massachusetts, but they don't have any mask. And you heard people shouting, tell them to go back, you know, F them.
That's insane to me. I'm sorry. Here in Florida, you know, when this whole thing started, we all most of us wore the mask and gloves for like the first month and a half, but then we're like, okay, clearly this is insane. And so, you know, there's some people who wear the mask, the gloves are pretty much gone away. But like I said, today's the first time in 3 months I've actually was given a mask before I could go into Guitar Center of all places. I've only been accosted once, and that was standing in line at Lowe's, and I was 4.5 feet from the guy in front of me instead of 6. And so the paranoid lady behind the counter quickly screamed at me to back up and give the man 6 feet.
Sir, I need you to back up, sir.
Yeah, pretty much.
Sir, back up. Yeah.
What about the what about the protests and all that? Has any of your property or any of your friends' property been affected by that?
Not the property per se. I got a few friends that own a restaurant nearby, and I was talking to them, and sadly, I didn't realize that you know, rioting damage is not even covered under insurance. So
do they see that as force majeure or what?
What's that?
They see that like act of nature, force majeure. I mean, it's considered just, you know, it's not covered under rioting. And then like maybe a few days after I spoke to him, he actually on the local news up here, they had made another mention that, and they were at a destroyed property, and they ended the story with, and sadly, insurance doesn't cover this.
What does insurance cover, by the way?
You paying more money regardless.
Insurance is the biggest scam. It's one of the only services you pay monthly and pray you never have to use it. The amount of money you spend on car insurance, homeowners insurance, dental insurance, all that stuff is insane. And then the one time you actually file a claim,
All the hoops.
I remember when we first moved down here, Hurricane Charlie hit us. My dad had just put up his privacy fence, and as anybody in Florida knows, a vinyl 6-foot privacy fence will run you about $5,000. Hurricane Charlie came, knocked it down. My dad has had the same homeowner insurance since the first house he bought in Ohio. So he's had houses in Ohio, Texas, California, and Florida. Never once filed a single claim. Not a one. His fence got knocked down. His lanai screen got all warped up. Filed a claim. His insurance company, the one he's had for 30, 40 years, gave him a fat check for $125 and then kicked his policy down to one of their subsidiary companies. It's like, what the hell? What do you guys... It's such a goddamn scam. And, you know, you got all these businesses. Well, like I remember when COVID-19 started kicking out, one of my clients who's a medical-based office, their office manager was on the phone with their insurance. Nope. You guys aren't covered if you have to shut down. Now you got people whose businesses are being destroyed by rioters. It's not covered. So let me ask you this. Maybe you know. If my window's kicked in and my shit's stolen on a Friday night where there's not a riot, is it covered?
I bet you it would be, because that'd be robbery. That's not rioting.
So that's the fine line, whether it's one person or 150. There's a guy we went to school with. He's got I think like 3 Little Caesars in the Columbus area, and he posted he was online with ADT when they called when store number 2 got its window kicked in, and he had to put them on hold to answer the phone from ADT when store number 3 got its windows kicked in. So he had 2 Little Caesars around Columbus that were destroyed.
That's crazy. Yeah, I've had what was that store before Best Buy in Columbus? What was
Sun TV? H.H. Gregg?
No, that Sun TV.
Circuit City?
Yes. Circuit City.
Yep.
They their insurance was a scam. They had their own they had split themselves into their insurance company they owned and the company itself they owned. But if you contacted the insurance company, they acted like they didn't know the store. But I've also, I've had jewelry in other places where insurance has been great. And then I've had places like that Circuit City. It was horrible. It was a scam.
I'm going to be very delicate about the subject, but I just have a question. We're all the same age, and whoops, I'm moving the wrong thing here. We're all of the same age, and I'm going to bring up a topic that you guys probably haven't thought of in a while, but you've heard people argue about for at least the last 20 years. So right now, I think 2 weeks ago, the creator of BET was on Fox News, and he was pleading his case for reparations for the descendants of slaves. I think he wanted a one-time payment of $350,000, and clearly that ain't going to happen. And then now I think OC, What's Her Nose, and a few other ones are saying, well, hey, let's start defunding the police and reallocating some of those funds. Which, if that's what you want to do, that's up to your constituents. But here's my question. So now we're hearing all this ramblings about how the police departments have way too much money. They've been militarized. Maybe they have. That's not my point of this thing. Here's where it's a little weird to me. What's the argument we've heard about for the last 20 or 30 years, the problem with prisons?
They're overpopulated, right?
They're privatized.
Exactly. Privatized prisons, they have incentive for the police to bring in more convicts so that they get paid by the state for more convicts. And so for the last 20 to 30 years, they've been trying to illegalize privatized prisons, i.e. make it where the states are funding them and the government are funding them. Mm-hmm. But now we're saying let's defund the police. So you want state-funded prisons but privatized police force? Because once you defund the police, they're not just going to shut up shop. They're going to go out and start kicking the bushes to find sponsors, to get donations, and they will become privatized. So which one is it? Do you want privatized prisons and privatized police forces, or you want the state paying for the prisons and having privatized police? Which one is it? They can't even get on the same goddamn page when it comes to what they want.
Or is it that okay, we're going to downsize and the city police, now the sheriff's department's going to swell, or the state's going to swell? I mean, it's going to shift to one place or another, right? So, like, for example, in Las Vegas, we don't have city police. We are actually, Las Vegas Metro PD is the sheriff. So you go down to Laughlin, Nevada, 3 hours away, LVMPD cars, you know? So, and then obviously Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department is under scrutiny too. And I struggle. I don't understand, obviously, being who I am, what some of the ethnic groups have gone through. It would be like the cheap seats, but if it was the cheap seats, it'd be all the way up top, in back, behind a bunch of people trying to see the field of play. And I feel for everybody, but
Well, the weird thing is
if
you cut the funding for the police, that means one, you're going to have less cops, and two, you're going to have cops getting paid less. And so you're going to have less good people wanting to be cops and dealing with that job instead of $40,000 a year for $28,000. So then you're going to get more hard up people who maybe aren't have the character that you want becoming cops. And I don't think that's going to solve the problem.
Have you met those people that work in drive-through windows that don't answer you with a smile and it's like you're bothering them? Yeah, that's what you're going to get.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I don't know who's going to want to do the job.
I mean, it already isn't paid enough anyway. So it's
if you ask me, from coming out of Ohio and coming straight into the Bronx, I was living straight in the hood. I was regentrifying areas before they even regentrified. But the thing that you see is you see all these politicians. Not so much. You don't see this in the communities like a Grove City where you have Southwest City Schools or Upper Arlington where you have more community control over their schools. These areas like here in New York City, the mayor has got full control of the schools because essentially the governor said, you know what, you got bad schools, you have good schools, but the bad schools are so bad, we're going to come in and do something about it. And in like Springfield, Ohio, what they did is they tore down South High School, which was in a really impoverished area, had bad results. They completely tore it down and said, guess what, white people? On the north side of town, all of the kids down in the south, they're all coming to North High School next year. All of them, whether you like it or not. We tore down South. It doesn't exist. You're all going to one school. There's the problem. You're going to integrate. And the state took it over and said, you couldn't solve the problem. We're solving it for you. New York was going to do that when I first came. That's kind of how I got drawn into New York. And
because you were a teacher, correct?
Right.
For those watching at home.
We're going to we're going to take over and we're going to make changes since you can't do it. And the Mayor Bloomberg at the time said, no, give me a chance. Give me full control. Let me appoint all these bureaucrats and we're going to come up with all these ideas. And New York State said, fine, it's off our hands. You're going to do it. So since then, they've taken away the small communities, the community boards that were making up all the decisions. And there might have been small community boards that were making bad decisions, but for the most part, the area knew what was needed best. And so now that you've got these huge cities with these political appointees, no one cares. Everything's political. They're just shoving these kids through.
They're just trying to get that money. They get paid per student.
There's no discipline whatsoever. They're even now wanting to take out here in New York City. They want to take out New York City's the police department having anything to do with school safety. Essentially, what that would do is it would allow them to sweep more of the problems under the rug.
Would they start their own, like out here in Clark County School District, we're actually the 5th largest school district in the country, believe it or not. And that's because every school in Las Vegas that's not private belongs to Clark County School District. It doesn't matter what part of the city they're in. But what they have is Clark County School District Police Department. They have their own law enforcement officers. And that's kind of an interesting twist. I've never seen that until I moved here.
Well, going back,
what they've got is they're more or less, what happened was they were sort of just mall cops.
Resource officers.
Then what they did is they slapped on a uniform that mimics the police to give them a little bit more authority. But they honestly, they've got no authority whatsoever. They don't have really handcuffs. They don't have any weapons. I didn't know until one day we were I was the union head and we had to do a shelter drill and bombing drills and things like that. And the security guards all wanted to know where they were supposed to hide. And I turned and I looked
nowhere.
What do you mean? They're like, well, we're supposed to hide until the real cops come. So it was like, what's the point of all they are?
What are we paying for?
Well, especially considering New York City has the largest police department. Here in Lee County, we have our real, Cape Coral. They actually have Cape Coral cops who become resource officers. They are stationed at this school. So every school actually has a legitimate straight up cop. But kind of going back to what we were saying earlier before we got into the school stuff, but about defunding police, and Gordon talked about how in Vegas, their sheriff's department or the one police force handles all these different areas. And if you live out in some of these areas, it takes a little longer to get response. Now, if you listen to this podcast for any amount of time and you hear us talking about the area of Southwest Florida, the area of Lehigh Acres comes up a lot. And if you ever read the news, there's a lot of crime going out there. Well, interestingly, interestingly enough, Lehigh Acres is not incorporated. And so they don't have their own police department. And so the Lee County Sheriff's Department, they do Cape Coral. Cape Coral has a police department, and then they have the Lee County Sheriff's. Fort Myers has Fort Myers Police, which they're in all kinds of shit. They're under reconstruction, but Lee County Sheriff handles that area. And then anything goes on out in Lehigh and Alva, Lee County Sheriff covers that area as well. And so when you start defunding the police, you're going to get a lot more of that. And you think things are bad now, just wait when there's no 1-2 call.
Well, there's no retribution.
Right. And that was I guess my point to get to was the fact that these same individuals who want to defund are the same individuals who then these young children who become adults who had no accountability, had no discipline. Then when they're, out in public and they're supposed to be upheld to a certain standard and they encounter the police who we hire to uphold those standards, then it's like, what do you mean? I've been able to go my whole life. These people have set the bar here for me, and now you're setting the bar even lower for me. It's going to be craziness because it's these individuals who are also in control of defunding police have set this whole sort of like platform up for some of these individuals. And I don't know what the heck's going to happen I get some of the defunding. They're saying, more community, more outreach. Do you need a tank for a police force? I get some of that, but at the same time, some of these individuals have wanted to defund everything. And these poor police officers, they don't have the idea that this individual has got all these problems, have got all these, and when they come across this individual, they want to go home to their family. And at the end of the day, like you guys were saying before, who are you going to get to take on this new role of being a cuddler, a social, a psychologist? How many degrees do I need to become a police officer now?
A ton.
So I understand. I completely understand needing to change things on the police level. Absolutely. Things are out of control, but defunding, the only thing that screams in my head is the law of unintended consequences.
Well, here, let's look at it this way. We don't have to completely defund, but here's a thought. For the longest time, a lot of these police departments were getting a little funding from the government for, busting all these potheads out there. Well, now that more and more of these states have legalized marijuana and, medical marijuana, maybe take the pot money away. Keep the hooker money, the crack money, the heroin money, the SWAT team money, but take that large bulk of money that they had been getting from the federal government for all these years for fighting the war on drugs. Maybe take that money and redirect it, because now, especially in the states where I'm sure the rest, obviously, clearly the rest are down in these states like Vegas, California, Washington, where you're no longer arresting somebody for having an eighth in their car or, a quarter in their trunk or whatever. So that money could go somewhere and be better spent.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I just, I don't even know where to start.
Let's change this subject. I got a new segment. Well, I just want to change the subject to something a little more fun because everybody's tired of this shit. Yeah. I was going to make a little intro for this, but Martin, you can join in for this. It's a nice little new segment I want to call Am I Mansplaining?
No, boy.
Here's the situation. I was at the store the other day, and it's the Dollar General. And I'm coming out, and a lady's got her stuff on the sidewalk, and she's looking at this little skinny blue bottle, and she's looking at the gas tank, and she walks over and pops her gas tank open, and I said, "Is that fuel injector cleaner?" She's like, "Yeah." Now, I didn't get into the whole this with her, but, long before I had a nice Toyota Tacoma that was reliable, I've come from a long line of shitty cars, and I've spent mad amounts of money in my 20s on fuel injector cleaner, octane boost, and all that shit.
All the additives.
And all the additives say, do not put this in your gas tank unless you have over a half tank of gas. And we were right across the street from 7-Eleven, and I said, hey, if that's fuel injector cleaner, you may want to go across the street if you have less than 3/4 of a tank of gas, and put it in and fill up your tank. Because if you read the instructions, it does say make sure you have almost a full tank of gas. And she's like, oh, okay, yeah, it's fuel injector cleaner. I get in my car, and she just, I don't know if she thought I was mansplaining to her or what, but she just went right to that gas tank and glug, 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 glug. And when I was pulling away, I was like, is that a definition of mansplaining, or am I a nice stranger offering quality advice on how to maintain your car because I've been there? What do you think I'm mansplaining, or am I just helping out the random stranger?
I think on that one, you were just helping out the random stranger.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I got a
the
second
kid just
theory.
didn't take your advice, you know.
She didn't. She went and put that shit in her car. Okay.
If you ask my wife, she's convinced that us that are from Ohio will talk to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so it could be that you're in Ohio and that you're just, that there's something about us that she's never, like here in New York, people don't say hi to each other. We were walking down the street when I first moved in with her, and this old lady, I said, "Hi, how you doing?" She was out. She goes, "Do I know you?"
Yep.
"I don't know you. Why are you saying hi to me?" And then now my wife makes fun of me because it's like, we'll stop at anywhere. And it's like, they see the Ohio plates or they see Ohio t-shirt on and they're like, "Oh, hey, so maybe it's from your Ohio roots."
It's funny because everybody from New York everybody from New York used to go down to Miami, but Miami's getting overpopulated, so now they're heading over here. And New Yorkers, I don't need to hear you say, "Yeah, I'm from New York." We don't fucking care. But yeah, they use that as a
disposal accent can kind of give that away.
Well, they use it as a justification for their asshole attitude and their bad just being a dick. I can be a dick. I'm from New York. Yeah, who gives a shit? Go back. Nobody cares. No one in Florida is from Florida. It's just like nobody in California is from California. So, just like I kind of fashion the joke, how do you know someone's from Ohio? Their car will tell you all about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be driving down the road. There's a Jeep in front of me. It has Ohio State Buckeye license plate ring. Then on the same Jeep, the tire cover, then all the headrest and like their seatbelt covers. And it's like one Jeep has 338 Buckeye logos on it. Yeah, we get it. You're proud to be from Ohio.
It's the old saying. I've said it before. Say it again. Ohio, it's a great place to be from. Yeah, and that's about it on that.
Have you guys thought about?
I see though. Like,
go ahead.
Going back to this whole madness. Part of it, I get a little like not upset, but I get sad. Like I see, our friends back in Grove City. I see them with kids. They're out watching baseball games. Florida kids are doing things. Or like I see people going to like the metro parks, and we're sitting here. I swear, it's like here in New York. It's like we're on lockdown, and I don't know if they've got us brainwashed, and the rest of you guys are crazy, or it's when you see on Facebook, it's like, we're still sort of. I guess I don't know if it's the governor on TV every day coming on and telling us things, and the mayor coming on, and
you in Michigan.
But then you go on Facebook, and it's like the rest of the world outside of New York. You guys are all like now starting to go to kids' ball games. I see people like putting on Facebook like, "Oh, we haven't seen each other for 2 months." They're hugging each other. Hell, I don't even want to touch a stranger.
I think you're over inundated with it.
A stranger.
Yeah, I meant to ask you that earlier. I said I think you guys are over inundated with it. I was meant to ask you earlier, what's it like to live in a lockdown state and seeing 3/4 of the country just going about their business, or seeing Cuomo on the TV telling you to stay at home, seeing CNN, stay at home. But when it comes to the protesting and the rioting, well, that's free speech. Come on down, have a good time. Well, which one is it? Are we supposed to stay home?
Well, now we're starting to see
a spike.
Their message now is they're going to see numbers spike here in the next few weeks because of all this.
Well, shouldn't they have already seen it start though? Doesn't it usually take 5 to 7 days to really kind of start?
I don't know. The only time so far that I've like sort of wanted to lose my crap was the first time that I finally said, okay, I'm going to go out, and I had the kids. I was driving around, and they saw a Dunkin' Donuts. The kids, for whatever reason, they see that orange and brown sign, they go nuts. So
America runs on Dunkin' because Starbucks is still asleep.
I was like, the state, this zone has kind of opened up. They're letting you do like that kind of stuff. So I stopped in and ordered like 6 donuts and myself an iced coffee. And so a kid, comes to the counter, takes my cash. Now I'm like fearful to touch the cash. I'm like handing the cash. I'm wiping. I have a Dixie cup that I keep cash in. After I wipe my hands after I touch the cash.
Microwave.
Honey, give me my portable UV light. I need it.
He's got rubber gloves on. He's now handled my cash, handed me change that who knows where that cash was at. So I'm thinking, okay, this guy's got gloves on. He's just the cash handler. That's what it's got.
Nope.
Cash handler owner. I'm in. Nope. So then all of a sudden I see another kid come over, and he's got rubber gloves on. So what's he do? He touches the monitor to check the order.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that guy just touched my money and touched that monitor. So then I'm sitting there thinking, are these kids touching the donuts with their hands? Are they using tongs? So I asked the kid, I was like, did you use tongs? Like, so that's that. Well, then he hands me the box. So now I'm thinking, oh shit, I got to wipe the box down. And before I open it up, so I set the box. So now I turn to get my iced coffee, and he's got his hand with his glove on top of the iced coffee. And I'm like, oh, come on, man. Like, are you serious? You just touched everybody's money. Now you're touching my top.
Might as well have.
That sent me sort of the over, because it was still the time when it was like, the protesting hadn't started yet. The only thing that was open was drive-throughs, and when you get up there, they got a window about this big in the house. They're handing you, and that was the only time that I sort of was like. And now, we joke. The other day, we went out and got some ice cream, and I got out of the car without a mask, and my wife's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I guess I'm starting to get back into the swing of things." And but I mean, I guess if it was just my wife and I'd be okay. It's just that one part of the back of your head when you got kids, you're like, and that's the one thing that still sort of is like freaking me out, because now you haven't heard of it anywhere else, but New York City had 100 of these like Kawasaki illnesses. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, they're called like the super bug.
But it was like only in New York. You didn't hear it in California. You didn't hear it anywhere else. So when I go home to New York and I pick up, a cooler of meat at the place we like to shop, and I'll pick up other things that only you can get in New York. It's like I wipe that down because I'm like, I don't want to bring this Kawasaki back. But then all of a sudden you don't hear that anymore. So I don't know. I'm hoping that, the more and more that people get out, and after this protest, if 2 weeks from now nothing happens, now we know that,
it's funny you're talking about Dunkin' Donuts. I was at Starbucks, and the guy laughed too, because the whole thing's just stupid. He has his gloves on, right? So he takes my debit card. Now a lot of them will put the thing out the window so you can just put your card in there yourself. But he took my debit card and swiped it, but then he handed me my coffee he basically had a coffee mug with my coffee sitting in it. It's like, so you can handle my debit card, but you're afraid to hand me my coffee. We just had hand-to-hand contact when I handed you my debit card, but you got to put my coffee in another mug, which has been handled by you guys. So it's all weird, which leads me into another topic. Here in Florida, we have a lot of toll booths. I know you guys do it up there in New York as well. And for the longest time, we had the pay lanes. About 5 years ago, they got rid of the change lanes. When I first moved down here in 2003, you drive through and throw the hand, which was always fun, just throw the coins. Yeah. Once they got rid of those, you would take your dollars, you'd fold them up, you'd put them in your fingers, and you'd try to drive by and have them grab it without stopping, just keep motion going. And then as cameras and technology developed, I got a speed pass, and I would just go through. But the speed pass is in my truck. But whenever I drive the Volkswagen to events out throughout Florida, especially I'm going to Orlando and Miami, I take the Volkswagen because it gets better gas mileage. But Cary doesn't have a speed pass in it, or any pass for that matter. And so what they do is they just take a picture of your license plate and they send you a $2 bill, or I have mine set up for auto enroll. So whenever I run a toll booth in her car, it just automatically hits my debit card for $2. And so now they're doing that all the time for all toll. And so the people who used to collect toll are gone, and I do not think that job will come back. I think you'll see those toll booths taken away,
automated out of existence.
They're the exit here up the block. They still have one.
No, they're probably unionized there though.
The smaller ones, they're getting to it, but all the bridges, and then the way it works is that if you don't have the little toll bell, they send it to you in the mail, and it's I don't know, I'd want to say 30-40% higher price for not having it. So they mail it to you based on your license plate picture. But they're slowly, I would say every maybe year or so, you drive up a little bit further upstate, you'll notice that exit they're working on. So yeah, it's a matter of time.
Yeah.
But I was surprised to see them when it was completely hitting the fan, and it was almost like, you touch or you sneeze.
Yep.
I was surprised that they were still working, and I was wondering, wow,
well, no, in New York and New Jersey, that's probably a unionized gig. And so they have a hard time, sending those guys home, because I'm sure the union reps will definitely say, well, that's a job that's needed to be done.
It's essential.
Yeah.
It's essential.
Yeah, I actually, I applied to come back off my leave and go back and work in the schools. And, as of right now, they don't know what they're doing, but that's one of the things that is going to be interesting to see how they're going to fix that. I don't know if you guys saw the CDC's recommendation. It's like you can't share materials, you can't share. So a kid asks for a pencil or let's say you're going to do a project with kids with scissors. Used to, you just put the bucket of scissors out. Everybody uses the scissors. Well, now I guess you got to bring your own scissors. I don't know what the heck's going to go on.
Yeah, our school year just ended, and funnily enough, I had to take Nugget to drop off her library books, but they told her to keep her Chromebook. Now, hypothetically, because they're not sure if they're going to do... I have a theory what's going to happen, at least here in Florida. I think they're going to go hybrid. I think they're going to offer schooling for the kids whose parents aren't terrified, and then the ones who parents are, they'll offer the distance learning. Or I think one of the things they're kind of talking about is flip-flop to keep the numbers down in class. Let's say you have 25 kids, put in 12 chairs. Well, you can keep your 25, but only have 12 students. Every other student come in on. So Timmy comes in on Monday, but on Tuesday he does distance learning, so that Stella can come in, sit in her desk that's next to his.
Weeks off.
And so they rotate every other day, so that the class isn't completely full. You keep your 6 foot distance. The kids social, learn at home for one day, but then get the interaction. But my problem with that is, by that point, I think most of the businesses are going to be back open. So what are the parents going to do to be home, especially with elementary school kids and middle school kids, to make sure that they are actually doing their distance learning? And the teachers, they're basically going to be live streaming their class, right? They're going to have to put up a camera, and just because you can't have 2 teachers, one teaching the class and one teaching the kids on the laptop. So I don't know how that's going to work.
I have no idea. I know right now in New York, because I've been staying on top of it and watching, the biggest thing is the union is saying that you don't have to live teach because these teachers are upset that, maybe I have something behind me. The kid gets to see my house, or some of these teachers were upset that they were being turned into memes. And,
no, kids aren't going to turn a teacher into a meme.
Awesome.
Not at all.
So the union said you don't have to teach live.
It said pre-recorded. Well, even if you pre-record it, they can make it into a meme. If you're that worried about, put your mask on. Then your face is covered. Problem solved. Carrie was really good. She actually did Zoom meetings every single day during this. And so she had her quote unquote office hours, and every single day, like I know a lot of teachers would do like maybe one a week, but she was in here right over here in the spot here in the podcast studio doing Zoom meetings every single day up until this thing was over with. But yeah, it's like, I don't think the stuff at the, I don't think the things we see at the drive-thru window is ever going to go away. I think the booger shields are going to be consistent. I don't think a lot of stuff I think is going to stick around. We got 10 minutes left, so Martin, you're more than welcome to stick with us. Gordon, you want to do your equivalent of the news? I know you're having a hard time finding non-COVID and non.
Well, I just have a quick question, Gordon.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, go ahead.
So what's going on with the conventions there in Vegas? That's still
going to be the question.
No dice.
Right now, I think they're planning on having them. I think we really won't see a full comeback until CES, and then we'll see how they work. I did go into the casino yesterday. I figured, hey, they opened the day before. Let's just go see what's going on. And definitely people are out there wanting to spend some money right now. Social distancing, it's kind of a mixed bag. I think we're all just – but the thing is, you can't have Americans just on lockdown forever.
No.
We're not built that way. But I do want to go ahead and pivot into the news. A
Pivot!
couple of things.
I saw that shirt at Target today, by the way. It has Jennifer Aniston and Homeboy on the stairs with the couch, and it says Pivot real big on the bottom.
So real quick, with everything that's been going on, we forgot about yesterday. Yesterday was a huge day.
Today's a huge day.
Or is it today?
Well,
is it today the D Day?
Well, technically, the airborne left at 11 p.m. on June 5th. June 5th was the original date for D-Day, but it got socked in with weather. But the weather broke at, so they got on their planes at 9. They actually jumped and landed at midnight. So technically and officially, the first boots of the Pathfinders landed on June 6th, 1942, which is today in Normandy. But yes, technically they loaded up the Pathfinders and the airborne went out the day before, which was yesterday. But for all intents and purposes, as far as history is concerned, and it's so funny because people hear D-Day all the time, and they are greatly disappointed to find out that D-Day is a generic term, that every single operation that is done during World War II had a D-Day and an H hour, just like on August 7th, 1942, at 9 a.m. was D-Day for the Marine Corps to land on Guadalcanal. So D-Day has kind of been adopted as the overall name for the landing on Normandy, but technically every single military operation during World War II had a D-Day and an H hour.
So and that's important. It seems like nobody really talked about it, and I wanted to bring that up leading into the news. One of the things that's going on right now, and it's not a surprise, but police TV shows like Live PD and Cops are going to put a halt to the season premieres and new seasons and new episodes because of what's going on and observance of everything. So the question is will they come back, or is it going to be a complete fallout? I personally think it's good because it shows how badly people behave when cops run into them. And you can't watch an episode, although on that one, am I on Live PD?
How bad is
that? Would be a great drinking game, by the way. Every time somebody says Live PD.
How bad are the producers of Cops scrambling to get relevant again?
Oh, they're both are.
Well, before this, so Live PD was the end all be all, and like only place you watch Cops was on reruns. And I know before this all happened, Cops was actually in contract with the Fort Myers police to come down here and do some filming again. But all this happened. But it's just so funny how a little bit of technology made Live PD just wipe Cops, who's been the prominent quote unquote reality police show since the 80s, directly off the damn calendar. No one even talks about that show anymore.
Yep, and that's absolutely true. But a statement released was out of respect for the families of George Floyd and others who lost their lives and in consultation with the departments we follow, and in consideration for the safety of all involved, we have made the decision not to broadcast Live PD this weekend. A&E released, so they're going to rerun them, which is kind of interesting.
Yep.
But they're not going to be. At least for the foreseeable future, it sounds like broadcasting new episodes.
For those of you who enjoy watching this podcast via the video, we are finally getting things sorted out with Zoom. The audio sounds better than it has a long time, but now we're stuck to these 240. Well, technically we could start a third segment, but I think that'll get a little old. Head over to d-410.com and click on that Patreon link. And if you sign up for Patreon, if I get like maybe 3 of you guys, I will, maybe we can get enough funds to pay that $200 a year for the full-time version of Zoom, and we don't have to chop the show up in half, and we don't have to have these time restraints because, as you know, this show usually goes 140 minutes, but now we're stuck doing 80-minute episodes. So please head on over. If you're a big viewer of the video format, whether on YouTube, Periscope, or Facebook, head over to D-410. I feel like we're doing like a telethon, and click on that Patreon link and help support the show so we can get back to our fully linked shows. What's your next story? We got 2 minutes left.
I want to probably end it there. My next story will run way too long. I want to bring that one up on the next episode. That's pretty much it for now because of the time constraints. Man, I do feel like I'm on NPR all of a sudden.
Because the listeners like you were able to bring you this mediocre content. So if you enjoy this mediocre content and you share it with your friends, please head over to d-410.com and support the show.
Mediocre.
Oh, we are. I mean, come on. This is mediocre entertainment at best.
At best.
Martin Marzika, thank you once again for joining us and telling us what's going on in your part of the world. I just can't imagine. You got to feel almost like the boy in the bubble sitting in your apartment watching the rest of the world play.
I just feel bad for the friends and family that are police and firefighters, first responders. I mean, they're getting mixed messages. Mm-hmm. At first they were told to hold down the curfew. And then, sadly, there was one or two that you could question that, stepped out of line as a police officer. But other than that, I mean, when you got the looting that's going down there and the nonsense, I mean, how do you expect them to react? And then when they're told, stand down, they stand down. And it went on for way too long. It's still going on. So not as what it was before, but, I'm just amazed that it's still going on to this day. But it seems like you're seeing more and more peaceful protests and less looting.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Martin. We will see you again here soon. Gordon, thank you so much. Where can people find you, Gordon?
I can be found at Aegis1974 on Instagram, abernathy.gordon on Twitter, and Gordon at D-410.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you for contributing to support the podcast, and we will talk to you all next week. And remember, if you don't get out of your comfort zone, you'll never get out of bed, and you'll never do anything productive. We love you guys so much. Thank you, and stay safe.
Bite me again.
This has been a Digital 410 production.